Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have another great show for you tonight. Right next to me is David Jack Jester, longtime videographer and multi-talented individual from right here in River City, Portland. Came on at the drop of a hat a few moments ago. He didn't know he was going to be a guest 10 minutes ago, but now, 10 minutes later, he knows he's a guest. And over in the wings, ready to play some music for us for the first time, I'd like to welcome Lee Rice. Welcome to the show, Lee.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great to have you. I am told that you are a multi-talented, versatile musician and can play several different instruments.
Yes, in fact, I have a flute with me, and she's been with me for, good Lord, she's been with me for 8 years, and she's a piece of work. Her name's Renata. She's my first flute ever. I'm getting a new one in the next week or so. It's actually a reconditioned Yamaha, but I like my flutes as rescues so that they can be fixed, made better. And Renata is born on the same day that my son was born in 1983. So she's 38 years old.
Wow.
She's 39 years old.
And you're about to get a new one.
Yeah, and I'm going to get a new one, a Yamaha named Bolero.
Bolero, okay.
They are live creatures.
I
Children.
appreciate that. So we'll be back with you and some flute music here shortly.
I also brought a tone instrument. It's a tone drum. It's a gong.
Okay,
Oh.
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Can you play that at the same? You can't do that both at the same time, can you?
No.
Oh, okay.
But I did
Well,
bring it.
All right. Well, welcome to the show. We're really happy to have you here,
bet.
Lee.
You bet.
And we're happy to have you folks watching. We are going to be back with news and video clips and conversation, and you can call in if you want just a little bit later. But first, as we always have done for 20 years now, we're going to bring on our infamous Cannabis Dancing Leaves.
I feel the force.
Medical journals. I have that leaf. Actually, I was telling David here. On our website since about 1998, we had a fellow named Anthony in San Francisco compose that music. So that is actually music that belongs to our organization. And back in 98 and 99, we won all the major website design awards, including Netscape's What's Cool, Cool Site of the Day, and even the British Medical Journal's Website of the Week. That's what I was telling him. Well, anyway, our first news story tonight is from Illinois. An estimated 30 state-licensed retailers began selling marijuana products to adults on Wednesday, January 1st. Under the new Illinois law, state-licensed retailers may provide up to 30 grams of cannabis to those over the age of 21. Those who are visiting from out of state may purchase 15 grams of cannabis. The law also enacts several other changes. Specifically, it permits qualified patients for the first time to engage in home cultivation of up to 5 plants, while decriminalizing home grows for non-patients. Illinois lawmakers passed the legislation, the Cannabis Regulation and Taxation Act, in June. Illinois is the 11th state to legalize adult marijuana use, and it's the first state to legislatively enact a comprehensive regulatory scheme governing commercial production and sale. Illinois lawmakers are to be commended for enacting comprehensive legislative reform that's both in accordance with public opinion as well as with the principles of fairness and social justice. On December 31st, Tuesday, Illinois Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker issued over 11,000 pardons to those with low-level marijuana convictions. The law also facilitates a process for the expungement of cases involving the possession of up to 500 grams of cannabis. Toy Hutchinson, who is the senior advisor to the Illinois governor for cannabis control, said, quote, "As one of the authors of this historic law, I am so proud to witness equity being put into place and practice today. The 11,017 pardons that Governor Pritzker is granting today are thousands of lives forever changed, and hundreds of thousands more will be changed in the coming months. Those who were unfairly targeted by discriminatory drug laws can finally get ahead and build a new future for themselves and their families." End quote. Our next story is from South Dakota. Voters in South Dakota will decide in November on a statewide ballot initiative to legalize medical cannabis access. The South Dakota Secretary of State's office affirmed that petitioners had gathered a sufficient number of signatures to place Measure 26 on the ballot this year. The initiative permits qualified patients to possess and home cultivate cannabis for medical purposes and establishes a state-regulated retail system for medical marijuana sales. Melissa Mintel, director of New Approach South Dakota and sponsor of the medical marijuana ballot initiative, said, quote, "For many years we've asked the legislature to address the issue of medical marijuana, despite the fact that a strong majority of South Dakotans support allowing legal, regulated, and safe access to medical marijuana for patients with debilitating conditions. Elected officials have failed to take action. Patients can no longer afford to wait, and this ballot initiative is our only recourse," end quote. South Dakota is one of only 3 states that has not enacted any legislation providing some form of medical cannabis or CBD access. Additional information about the South Dakota initiative is available from the website of South Dakotans for Better Marijuana Laws. Next story is from Hawaii. Legislation takes effect on Saturday, January 11th, decriminalizing Hawaii's minor marijuana possession offenses. The new law, which passed in July, reduces penalties involving possession of up to 3 grams of marijuana. That's about 3 joints, or a little less than 1/8 of an ounce. But it would say those are no longer a criminal crime, a felony. It would just be a misdemeanor. Previously, it had been punishable by up to 30 days in jail and a fine of $1,000. Now it will be a $130 fine only. It also provides procedures for the Hawaii courts to grant expungement order to those previously convicted of possession offenses involving no more than 3 grams. The law was enacted absent the governor's signature. Lawmakers are hoping to expand the scope of the law in the coming legislative session. 25 states and the District of Columbia have either legalized or decriminalized the adult possession and use of marijuana so far. Out of Ann Arbor, Michigan, annual survey data finds that self-reported marijuana use by young people has remained stable since 2012, when the first 2 states enacted adult-use cannabis legalization. According to the Monitoring the Future report published in 2019, the percentage of young people reporting cannabis use, annual use, and use within the past 30 days has changed little since 2012 and remains well below 1999 levels. However, among those adolescents who reported using cannabis, a greater percentage than ever are vaping it. Teens' self-reported use of alcohol and several other controlled substances continues to be at record or near record lows. By contrast, the percentage of 8th and 10th graders nationwide reporting having consumed cannabis daily has risen since 2012, particularly among 10th graders. In July, an assessment of the data compiled by the Youth Behavior Risk Survey reported that there has been an overall decline in self-reported marijuana use by young people residing in states that have regulated the substance for either medical or recreational purposes. So in the states where marijuana has been made legal, the kids aren't as interested anymore. Next story is from Salt Lake City, Utah. High schoolers are, on average, waiting longer before trying cannabis for the first time, according to data published in the journal Health, Education, and Behavior. A team of researchers affiliated with the University of Utah assessed trends in high schoolers' first exposure to cannabis for the years between 1991 and 2017. The investigators reported, quote, an increasing trend from 1991 to 97 in the prevalence of marijuana use before the age of 15, end quote. By contrast, the authors reported a downturn in this trend from 1997 through 2017. The authors concluded that overall, quote, the mean age of first marijuana use increased significantly between 1991 and 2017. Specifically, the prevalence of marijuana use before the age of 15 has decreased since 1999 in the whole population, end quote. This study, a trend analysis of age of first marijuana use among high school students in the United States from 1991 to 2017, appears in Health, Education, and Behavior. Our next story is from right here in the Beaver State, from Beaver City, Corvallis, Oregon. The enactment of adult use cannabis access laws is associated with decreasing rates of binge drinking by college students aged 21 or older, according to data published in the journal Addictive Behaviors. The researchers affiliated with Oregon State University compared self-reported drug and alcohol use among nearly 1 million college students over 10 years, from 2008 to 2018. They reported that binge drinking prevalence among those between the ages of 21 and 26 fell by 10% in jurisdictions where adult use marijuana access was regulated as compared to other states. The investigators reported no increase in the use of any controlled substance other than marijuana, except for the use of sedatives by those under the age of 21. The authors concluded, quote, for students ages 21 years and over, binge drinking decreased following recreational marijuana legalization. We speculate that legalizing recreational marijuana use may temper this increased alcohol use by minors after they reach legal drinking age effect, such that college students over the age of 21 who otherwise would have engaged in binge drinking continue using marijuana instead. A substitution effect of marijuana legalization on college students' binge drinking could have important public health implications, end quote. The study, Trends in College Students' Alcohol, Nicotine, Prescription Opioid, and Other Drug Use After Recreational Marijuana Legalization from 2008 through 2018, appears in this month's issue of Addictive Behaviors. Our next story is from India, South Asia. The daily administration of cannabis leaf-derived powder, or powdered marijuana leaves, is associated with reduced pain, anxiety, and depression in patients with cancer, according to clinical trial data published in the Indian medical journal Ayu. A team of researchers from Gujarat Ayurveda University, or medical school, in India, assessed the safety and efficacy of a prepared cannabis mixture in 24 subjects with cancer. The subjects consumed capsules containing 250 milligrams of powder derived from the dried leaves of the female cannabis plant 3 times daily for 4 weeks. The researchers reported that cannabis treatment was associated with a statistically significant reduction in pain and anxiety, along with the mitigation of several other symptoms, including depression, appetite loss, and insomnia. Participants also experienced a significant improvement in their overall quality of life. The authors concluded, quote, administration of cannabis leaves powder for a period of 1 month significantly relieves pain, anxiety, and depression of cancer patients without creating any major side effects, dependency, and withdrawal symptoms, end quote. This study, management of chronic pain with water-washed cannabis leaves in cancer patients with deprived quality of life, an open-label, single-arm clinical trial, appears in the Indian medical journal Ayu. And our last story tonight from Bordeaux, France. Cannabis inhalation is associated with subjective relief from symptoms of restless leg syndrome, according to a series of case reports published in the journal Sleep and Breathing. French researchers reported on the use of inhaled cannabis in 12 patients with refractory restless leg syndrome. All but one of the patients, quote, admitted total relief of the symptoms following cannabis smoking, end quote. Among patients who acknowledged both smoking cannabis and taking sublingual extracts of CBD, inhaling cannabis was reported to be the more effective treatment option. A previous case series of 6 patients similarly reported that cannabis provides subjective relief of restless leg syndrome symptoms. The authors concluded, quote, altogether, these findings may open a new conceptual framework to understand the role of coordinated endocannabinoid signaling in the central nervous system, which may be relevant for understanding of cannabis efficacy in restless leg syndrome, end quote. The full text of this study, More Evidence of Cannabis Efficacy in Restless Leg Syndrome, appears in this month's issue of Sleep and Breathing. That's the end of our Hemp News segment tonight, and now Lee Rice is going to play her flute. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you. Sorry for being so loud.
That's okay.
All right, I'm going to play a song that was first made popular in the 70s. It's called Beret, and it was made popular by Jethro Tull, Ian Anderson playing on flute. So he was the one that got me into playing the flute, and I felt it was just something I had to do, and now I am. And I play the recorder also, which is a whistle mouthpiece. And that's what I started on when I was a young person. So anyway, now I play mainly the flute. So I'm going to play you Beret, and I hope you like it.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks,
Lee Rice on the flute. Thank you for coming in. We'll have you back here at the end of the show for a little exit music. We appreciate it. So, David Jack Jester, it's good to have you back on the show. How's it going, man?
I've been doing pretty good.
Good, good. That's pretty short notice here.
There's a lot of things to talk about with cannabis.
That's true. There's a lot of big things last year. We could talk about some of those, but we had a few of them here. The move in Illinois, one of our larger states, to legalize cannabis is definitely a benefit.
Pardoning 11,000 people.
Yeah.
It
Wouldn't
sure
it be
beats
great if
the-
our governor did that?
Yeah.
You got to spend the big bucks to get your record
There's a
expunged
lot
here.
of people that are working towards the freeing the political prisoners. I think it's
Yeah.
persecution, not prosecution, because, it beats having them releasing the governor of the other state that were cut 500 or 600 hardened criminals loose
Oh yeah, Kentucky. The
Kentucky.
Kentucky governor did
because he
that.
lost the election, so he set free all these horrible people.
Yeah, I heard a little bit about that. I don't know all the details, but anyway, if you are watching out there tonight, it is just the third day of this decade. It's the 3rd of January, 2020. If you're watching tonight, you can call us at that number that's there on your screen. It's 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. If you have any questions about marijuana, marijuana legalization, the laws regarding it that keep changing in every jurisdiction, or medical marijuana, then give us a call at that number, 503-288-4442. Yeah, they just instituted a new law for Oregon's medical marijuana patients that went into effect this week. on the 1st. And now every patient has to fill out a form saying that they have permission to grow marijuana on their property. And so if they don't own their property, they have to go to someone who controls the property or owns the property and get them to sign this form saying that they can grow medical marijuana on their property. Now, it's not like Oregon's fees aren't already exorbitantly high. In Hawaii, it's $35 for the first year and $15 for years after that. In Montana, it's just $25 a year. Here in Oregon, your average patient pays $400 to register annually for the marijuana program if they're going to grow their own or name someone to grow their own, and they have a garden that has more than 3 patients. So the price is just astronomical, and it seems that all of these rules are put in place by the legislature at the behest of alcohol and cannabis retailers. So these people that have an economic interest in making sure that patients can't grow their own, they want them to come into their store, they manage to get the legislature to pass these increasingly restrictive laws. It's really kind of sad.
It's really sad, especially if you know the chemistry of the cannabinol plant, because when I was reading up on this, I learned that the active ingredient in both THC is the same as in alcohol. It's a hydroxyl ion. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that is basically an oxygen and a hydrogen and one extra electron. Mm-hmm. And that extra electron can take a message from your sleeping consciousness into your waking consciousness. Mm-hmm. Your sleeping consciousness is your soul. And that's when you say you got soul, baby, you know. That's how come you can loosen up and it can flow through that gate that's there. And what makes it different is there is no nitrogen in the base molecule of either alcohol or THC. They're theoretically classified chemically as sugars. And so the difference is alcohol is fermented and it's in liquid form, and you have all these hydroxyl ions you consume, and that gets up into your brain, and that's what the high is about. Whereas THC is taken into the brain where it metabolizes and releases the alcohol, so it has no harmful effects. Mm-hmm. Hydroxyl ions, or that extra electron, can works with the body's protoplasmic acids. We're basically batteries. Mm-hmm. And so that's why THC you can't kill yourself with it.
Doesn't affect the base part of the brain. There aren't THC receptors in the base part of the brain, the endocannabinoid receptors. So because there are those receptors for dopamine and the things that trigger the dopamine receptor sites, which are opioids and analgesics, that can slow down the breathing or stop it if over stimulated.
Well, that's basically when I was young and I wanted to learn what I was doing to my body with the drugs back in the 60s. Mm-hmm.
Back then, you could get factual books in your school libraries that told you the truth instead of the propaganda that began to come out in the 80s with the Reagan "just say no" doctrine.
They censored all the technical information, so it all.
It was kept from high school students anyway. But back in our day, mine's the 70s. You might be a little bit earlier, 60s, right? 60s. So. You could still get factual books in the library on those subjects, in the school libraries.
They're hard to find now.
Anyway, we have a couple minutes of video here from our friend Jorge Cervantes. He's going to talk about how to tell males from females, and he's got a male plant here to show us. So we'll be right back after Jorge Cervantes.
You know, unless you grow from seed, you usually don't see male plants. Occasionally you see a male flower on a female plant or a hermaphrodite. Actually, they're called intersex plants. But let's look at this. We've got this very interesting male here. I'm looking at all these little, well, let's see, let's pick this down here. we've got these little male flower parts here, right here. Here's the little male stamen sac. And then we can see this one is about to open. And it splits out just like a little flower would. And because that's what it is, it's a male flower, splits out into 4 parts. And then there's another little liner of leaves around there or petals around there. And then when it opens like that and disperses all the pollen. And that pollen just floats all over in the air and is cooler than heck, man, because it's really minute stuff. And each one of those little pollen grains is looking for a pistil, a female pistil. Only a female pistil from the same cannabis plant. Doesn't matter the strain or variety, but a female cannabis plant is what each one of those little grains of pollen is looking for. Wow, look at that. It just falls and then it's gone out into the air, and then it falls on the leaf or paper, and you can just tap it a couple times and it's airborne. Well, this stuff, where I live in Spain, it comes all the way from Africa to Spain, to the Iberian Peninsula. And there's big clouds of it. It's on the news every day, especially in the south. A lot of times it comes as far north as France. But this stuff will travel forever, and it just penetrates just about anything. If you want to keep this male isolated, the best way to do it is keep him alone in his own room, and then anytime any going in and out should have a double entrance, and then as well have a screen so you can see in, and have water run over that screen. Keep that screen a little bit wet. That pollen hits the water and it'll get wet and die. It'll be rendered useless. So that's my little talk on this Chernobyl male.
So that's our friend Jorge Cervantes telling us about how to tell some males from females. Useful information if you have them. You don't want your males to seed plants. But it's very interesting, I think, how pollen from Morocco and North Africa seeds the plants, the sinsemilla crops in Spain over the Mediterranean. He was talking about that briefly. But we were discussing while he was on there a little bit about hemp and hemp extraction. And you said you were particularly interested in cannabidiol, or CBG. You wanted if I knew what that was. Did you know it's cannabidiol? That's what it is.
I didn't know G stood for gibberol.
Now you know.
Now I know. I'm educated.
Yeah. So, it's a more expensive extract than THC. It's found in a lot lower quantities generally in the cannabis or the hemp flowers. But I know a lot of people who are growing hemp, particularly in Southern Oregon, were trying to grow for CBG. What did you want to say about it?
Well, I understand that it's more valuable because that is cannabinol, the cannabinoid that relieves pain.
Uh-huh.
And so it's particularly used in pain creams and things like that. I have several people have sent me formulas of pain creams, and they really work. It's totally amazing how it just takes a few minutes. And CBD is more for anxiety and things more like that. But the CBG is everybody's growing it because it has more effect.
And they can get more money for it. That's the reason farmers are concentrating on it, is because they can get 5 to 10 times more than they can for CBD extracts right now. The prices are just dropping on there, and the farmers are looking for ways to sell that. So if any of you want any more information on any of this, you can call our office. Our office number is 503-235-4606. It's 503-235-4606. We also have a referral service. If you are a loved one or someone you know needs to find a doctor who can help them qualify for medical marijuana, if they have any of these conditions, from pain and cancer to neurodegenerative diseases or gastrointestinal ailments, then we have doctors all over the country we can refer you to. Just give us a call at 503-235-4606. It's 503-235-4606. And again, we're doing this show live on January 3rd, 2020. If you have a question or comment for us, you can call us at 503 503-288-4442. Now that number's there, 503-288-4442. And so, have you been involved in any of these extraction processes, or?
Well, I have been trying to work with the hemp market and broker deals between, there's millions of pounds that have been grown.
Yeah, I had a few friends of mine calling me just this week saying, I have all this hemp, can you help me find a market for it? Well, I know a couple people. There's a guy in Houston, Texas with the Drug Truth Network, Dean Becker, and he wants to make some hemp cigarettes that he can market in Texas. And so I can help him that way, but there's just so much of it, and the market's developing.
Yes, and you know, it comes in different styles. They have the flowers that people are going, they look like they get you ripped. They're just beautiful plants.
They look and smell like good flowers, you know, with cannabis, with THC, but they don't have THC.
No, they won't get a fly high.
Yeah, but they will take care of pain and other spasms.
Well, they're good for substitution for smoking tobacco.
Or opioids. It's a good way to help people.
Well.
In fact, I have a collection, and you've probably seen some of them, of antique medical marijuana containers. And many of them say they're for these are 100, 150 years old. And on the bottle it says they're for the habituates of opium, cocaine, chloroform. Apparently chloroform used to be a problem. And delirium tremens associated with alcoholism.
Well, it was legal. All those were legal up till about 1910, because you could get your cough syrup with codeine in it or cocaine in it. Coca-Cola originally had cocaine in it, and so they kind of tightened that down on all that around 1910, and then
the Harrison Narcotics Act did that. It was the Harrison's Narcotics Act that made heroin and other substances, cocaine, opiates, illegal. But you know, let's get back to hemp. I am going to go and speak. I'm actually a keynote speaker at the Texas Hemp Convention. It's the first Texas Hemp Convention at the end of this month on January 28th, 29th, and 30th. And here we have our hemp flame of freedom. This is hemp oil with a hemp wick. This is where the hemp wick comes from. This is next week's hemp wick. And this is hemp oil too. And so hemp is traditionally an illuminant. And one of my talks, and I'm going to give 3 talks as a keynote speaker at the Texas Hemp Convention. One of them on Tuesday the 28th at 4 o'clock in the Cave Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center, which is the largest convention center in Dallas, Texas. I'll give a talk on hemp biodiesel. So I'll be talking about hemp oil as a fuel. And then on Wednesday at 4 o'clock, I'll give another hour-long presentation on the evolution of cannabis, the first 25,000 years, and how we need it to continue that development, that symbiotic relationship. And then on the final day at 4 o'clock, I'm on a panel with Morris Beagle and Preston Whitfield of the NOCO Hemp Conference. That's the biggest one in the country in Denver. It's coming up at the end of March. And another fellow, Preston Pete from Florida. And we'll be talking about hemp fiber. And in fact, they have just contracted and broken ground on what will be the largest hemp fiber to textile production facility in America. It's going to be built in Lubbock, Texas. And they're going to be taking hemp and turning it into canvas, lace, and
like
linen.
the spent cellulose from
the stalks.
The stalks.
The whole stalks,
the
the outer bark and the interior woody core. They're going to process them. They're asking their farmers to harvest it in July before it starts flowering. And that makes it a little more supple and less wiry. And then that makes a better quality canvas. And so there's more information on that. We'll be talking about it there.
I had a really good friend who passed on, Gary Ewing.
Yeah, I remember Gary with his famous light shows here in
Yeah, he was
Portland.
into the domes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was his original idea to blow up one of his balloons, like a 30-footer, and then cover it with concrete. And that was before anybody knew about hempcrete.
That's what this is. This is hempcrete right there.
So,
which is lighter and stronger than concrete.
Right. And it's an amazing cellulose because you can mix it like with a gum and have a frothy kind of a product that you can put on. Take one of his domes and put the lightweight mixed with gum, agar or something, and that would be an insulation. That gives you a basic shell of your dome. Sure. And then you can now spray on the hempcrete. It's 1/3. You just take that same cellulose and mix it with hydraulic lime, and you have hempcrete. And it's so much lighter that you can spray a layer down with that, and then you can deflate the dome down, move it over, blow it up, and make another.
You know what?
dome.
We have a real expert on hemp that came to our Hempstock Festival right here in Portland back in 2015. In fact, she even taught the hemp class at Oregon State University for about 4 years. And so I worked with her. Her name's Andrea Herman. She's the president of the North American Hemp Industries Association as well. But here is Andrea Herman at the 2015 Hempstock Festival. We'll be right back.
My master's in hemp fiber agronomy at the University of Manitoba, and now I am also dual citizen in Canada, and I've been there, as I said, for 15 years. I just finished my 15th year of THC sampling under the authority of Health Canada, and also trained other samplers and have diversified that area of work and helped labs set up and understand the regulatory reviews that we need to improve this sector as we move forward overall. If you were here earlier, you heard Joy talk about what's going on in Congress, so definitely check out votehemp.com and go to the Take Action tab and reach out to your congressional leaders asking them to co-sponsor the Industrial Hemp Farming Act. Your voice is being heard. We are picking up co-sponsors all the time from various states, and now we're looking at 27 or 28. It's pretty much changing daily. States.
Okay, they're having some kind of technical difficulty there in the background, and so they needed to kill that for just a moment. Are they able to come back with that? Well, there's the music.
It's my fault. I shouldn't have played along.
No, it's not you. I don't think. Okay, well that is you. But they had some kind of music background in that video. Let's see if we can, I don't know where that music came from. That's odd. But anyway, we have another video. We're coming back. We'll be right back.
In the United States that have legalized cultivation of industrial hemp and thus then are qualified underneath Section 7606 of the Farm Bill, hemp legitimacy for research. Yes. So 8 states this summer cultivated industrial hemp in the United States. 8 states. A lot of people did a lot of work to make those 8 states happen, and a lot of people right here in Oregon made that happen also. I personally assisted with a project up in North Dakota State University. It's the one closest to my heart because I had direct contact with it. We brought in 12 varieties from 3 different countries and planted those up in Canada. I mean, on the Canadian border, but in North Dakota. Those were from France, Canada, and Australia. The collaboration from our international partners right now have been amazing. To work with us to import their cultivars and steward their varieties here in the United States really gives us an opportunity to use what is known and have the data to compare to look at yields, for instance. Because without the farmer, we don't have the cultivation of industrial hemp. So everybody thank a farmer, because without them we have no food. Definitely want to invite everybody up to the Canadian Hemp Trade Alliance Conference. It's coming up in Calgary, Alberta in November. You can check me out at hemptechnologies.com, hemp-technologies.com. They're the builders of the first hempcrete houses in the United States. We actually have some workshops coming up in Seattle, Washington. So be checking those out also in Calgary prior to the Canadian Hemp Trade Alliance. In addition, I am been the president of the Hemp Industries Association. We are the national nonprofit driven to industry for industrial hemp, so please go to thehia.org. It is a national nonprofit, so your membership, even as a supporting member or volunteering for a state chapter, just like you have right here in Oregon. So volunteering for these state chapters and events like this is really what helps get the message out, and having a positive attitude. In addition, I am the instructor of WSE 266, Oregon State University. It is the world's first 3 credit hour course that you can take to get a university credit. So anywhere in the world, you can take WSE 266 and get 3 credit hours to go towards your university degree. It's a backcourt class, so it fills lots of requirements. You can take it at 3 o'clock in the morning, I don't care. So, and that's right here at Oregon State University. So if you see what's also driven here, and that came through the Renewable Materials Division. So now, what's that? Oh, I think if you're over 65 and you're a resident of Oregon, you can take it for like $25. Any of the campus extension services classes, so that's all right here. So what's next? Well, we're already planning for the cultivation trials next year, and part of that is getting all of the DEA permitting that you need to actually bring the seed in, which includes phytosanitary, import-export documentation, and you have to make sure that every single one of those pieces of paper, of course, are filled out properly. But the nice thing is now, with rules that we have sitting in Congress, and one of those being the appropriations bill, which essentially is the budget for the Department of Justice. And in this budget, it says that they cannot contravene Section 7606 of the Farm Bill, which means none of the funds for the Department of Justice can be used to stop the importation of industrial hemp seeds as long as they're done with the proper paperwork into this country to foster an industrial hemp industry here. Yeah. And we are definitely fostering, and we are part of a global movement. So if you look about what's going on around the globe right now with the growth of industrial hemp in various different languages, and everybody coming to the table to want to help to grow that. So as we move forward, we want to help support groups that put on things like hemp stock, because without them, our community will start to fall apart. And that's really important. Get out and volunteer. Actually, be good citizens and help pick up garbage. Right? So definitely go to votehemp.com. My name's Andrea Herman, and free the hemp seed.
A lot for hemp. She's talked about that though. But yeah, that's from 2015. There have been huge developments since then. So what was it that you wanted to talk about here?
Well, we talked about how expensive it was for the average user, you know, $400.
Oh yeah, the medical marijuana patient.
Yeah, but if you're on the Oregon Health Plan or a veteran or SSI, then you have
there are discounts. That's right.
Discounts,
so the lowest discounts, if you have a medical marijuana permit, are for veterans and for people on supplemental security income, or SSI, which is one Social Security program, not disability. If you have either SSI or a veteran, it's $20 a year for your patient fee. If you have the Oregon Health Plan, then it is $50 a year for your medical marijuana permit. And if you have SNAP, also known as food stamps, then it's $60 a year. For everyone, if you're not on those programs, then it is a $200 a year fee. Then if you don't grow at your own home, you're allowed to grow. If you don't grow at all, it doesn't matter. But if you grow at your own home with one other patient or two or less patients at a residence, then it doesn't cost anything and you don't have to report to the state. But if you don't grow at your own residence, or there are more than 2 patients at your residence or at your grow site, then you have to pay an extra $200 a year fee. So for instance, with me, I'm a disabled U.S. military veteran. And so I only pay $20 a year, but I don't grow at my home. I grow at another farm. So I have to pay a $200 a year fee for that. So it's $220 for me. But that's the way this, like I said, they've been trying to crush this program at the legislative level. A lot of us wonder, what can we do? And can we go to the Oregon Liquor Control Commission or the even less powerful Oregon Cannabis Commission, which is just an advisory body? And no, they don't have any real power here. Well, the OLCC has some, but the OCC, the Oregon Cannabis Commission, has absolutely none. They are an advisory body, and the OLCC and the legislature have never listened to anything they've ever said. But they listen to the industry people. You know, it's the industry people with alcohol distributors and cannabis distributors who donate money to their election campaigns. They're the ones who have the ear of the legislators. We need to change the whole legislative session, you know, the whole legislative body. You know, the whole system needs to be torn down and rebuilt again, which is a big job. But somebody's got to do it.
That license lets you grow 12 plants or 4 plants?
Your medical marijuana license in the state of Oregon allows you to grow 6 plants per patient. And that's budding plants. That doesn't include non-flowering plants. You can have 18 plants that are not flowering and more than 18 inches tall. And you can have an unlimited number of plants that are less than 18 inches tall. Your clones don't count until they root either. So that's the way it is under Oregon's current law.
And if you're just a normal consumer that moved to Oregon to grow their own, you get 4 plants.
You can have 4 plants per household, though, not per person.
And that costs you now $400?
No. If you're growing your own 4 plants per household, that doesn't cost anything at all.
Oh.
Doesn't cost anything at all.
So
just grow 4 plants per household. Now, if you have a medical card, you can grow an additional 6, so a total of 10.
Oh, okay.
We have another video clip with Chris Bennett, who came to our Hempstock Festival in 2014 and 2015. Chris has written about 6 books on the history and spiritual use across many different cultures of cannabis. And he's going to talk a little bit about those. Do we have that video ready to roll? Okay, here it is. We'll be right back.
When the DEA didn't exist, it was still a dream in the minds of the conservative right. When I first wrote this book here in Oregon, took it around to printers. First printer I took it to was a guy in Eugene. Real nice guy. Showed him the book. It really shocked him. But he agreed, you know, I'll go ahead and print it. Well, it turned out a guy in his shop was a John Bircher. Who called the FBI here in Portland. And the FBI came down and visited the printer. And the printer called me up and said, I can't print your book. So I said, okay, that's cool, I understand. I came up to Salem, found a printer. Same routine. The FBI by that time was kind of following me around. So I went to 4 or 5 printers around the state. Same thing happened. And I sat there thinking, damn, how am I going to get this book printed? And there was a guy named Dave Holman who published the newspaper in Florence, Oregon, who was known throughout the state as probably one of the most conservative newspapermen in the state. I figured, conservative, right-wing, freedom of the press, let's go try this guy out.
Sure, First Amendment.
So me, long hair, you know, the whole routine, walked in. I said, do you believe in the First Amendment? He said, you bet I do. I said, print this for me? He said, you got the money? He said, I'll print it. He said, but wait. And he picked up the phone and he dialed a number and he got on the phone. And I forget the name of the guy, but he said, so-and-so, this is Dave down in Florence. He said, I'm going to print Bill Drake's book, and you better keep your agents out of my shop. And he hung up and he said, that was my buddy, the agent in charge in Portland. It was great. And so it was the hippie and the redneck went into partnership to produce this book.
Always gotten along.
Yeah, oh, they're under the skin. You know.
I know some redneck.
But I have a lot of respect for Dave Holman. I don't know if he's still alive or not, but that man stood up for what he believed in. He stood up for the freedom of people to say what they believe in and would not get in the way of it. Whereas everybody else had just caved to the FBI.
Sure.
Well, I know in my case, if you go to the federal DEA's official website, I'm the largest single bust in the history of the DEA. I'm the largest
I'm
medical...
proud of you.
In the number of plants, right?
Yeah, I'm the largest.
How many plants have you
it's almost 50,000 in the 2 busts together.
That ain't hay.
No.
And
There
they punish that. Like every plant is considered the same as importing a kilo.
Once I had
of
over
marijuana.
1,000 plants, I was looking at a life sentence. That's why we planted the whole field. I mean, if I'm going for one, I might as well go for four.
Right.
But what I was saying was that I noticed your cough balsams and different medications here. And
We have quite the antique bottle collection.
Well,
Our
what-
foundation
Still have the
has
actual
about
stuff in them?
180 pieces.
well,
Yeah,
what-
these are three. In fact, two of these are new to our collection. Just this week they've been obtained. This one is the best example I've ever seen of the Lloyd Brothers cannabis. It says American hemp on there. And it comes not
Well,
just
wonderful.
with the bottle, but the insert, the cork that's supposed to go in it after you open it, and the little thing that held
These
it
are
on
all
there.
alcohol tinctures, right?
Yeah, this is 74% alcohol.
You want to talk,
Well-
should we talk a little bit for our audience
Well,
about
let
making
me-
a tincture?
Let me give you this little bit of information real quick first while I'm still thinking about it.
Good luck.
Okay. In the Bible, there is a recipe for the holy anointing oil.
Sure.
Okay.
We've discussed that on this show many
And-
times.
If you go back to the ancient Hebrew text, it's undeniable that they're talking about cannabis.
Keep that.
According to Roger
And-
Christie, I was anointed.
Yes, and I personally have made the holy anointing oil for many years. I can bear witness to the miracles that have been done with this. But
Praise the Lord.
everybody has, yes, God, praise Creator. But
Amen.
the point is that there's been naysayers for many, many millennium about everything that we've said. My dear friend Jack Herrera is very right and correct when he says hemp will and can and will save the world. Last week I got an email. A Jewish scientist in Tel Aviv took the holy anointing oil directly from the Bible, recreated it in his laboratory, and turned around and sold it to a multinational pharmaceutical corporation, and every airport in the world and every hospital in the world will be using cannabis products in the next 2 years. They have proven that it will kill infections, including staph, AIDS, and cancer. It will kill all.
There, he just about a month or two after this came out, went to prison for 10 years, and he's gotten out now. But the other fellow is Bill Drake, and Bill Drake wrote the Cannabis Cultivator's Guide, which back in the 60s and 70s sold 7 million copies.
I remember
Most of them ripped off by Students for a Democratic Society. They printed it without paying him or giving him any royalties, but it still counts as being sold.
You get bootlegged, then it
Yeah,
just means
but that's
you-
Bill Drake there and Eddie Lepp. Eddie's back out and living in California, in the land of legal cannabis, we're happy to say. Well, we are down to just about 4 minutes and 20 seconds left in this show. And
4:20.
so it's a little too late to call in now, but I want to thank you folks for watching. Again, we have a physician referral service. If you or a loved one need help finding a doctor who can help you get medical marijuana anywhere in the United States, just give us a call at 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. If you have any questions about marijuana or anything else, give us a call. And what about you, David? What are you up to?
Well,
I'll put you on the spot.
I'm working on some projects. We're trying to free people that are still in jail. There's some people involved with projects. Yeah.
There's one called the Last Prisoner Project that a lot of different people, myself included, are working on. And we've had the fellow in here just on our show a couple weeks ago who produced, well, you met him down there with
Jeff
Smokeahanas.
Eichen?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jeff Eichen, I guess.
Yeah, he's
You
got
went-
a good project going on that.
Yeah.
And so there's several other people that are also working toward that end. It's basically, there's so many people that had their entire lives destroyed.
There are still a couple hundred people in federal prison for life without the possibility of parole who are there for marijuana crimes. It's being made legal. We're expunging everybody's record. Well, not at the federal level yet. But, and with Mitch McConnell in control of the Senate, nothing's going to pass through there until he's gone. So get active, get out there, and take over this system. We need to outvote the people who would imprison us. We need to outvote the people who would make certain we don't have health care. We need to outvote the people who want to destroy the climate and the ecological diversity and the cultural diversity of our planet. It's our duty. So get out there, register, and vote.
Take back the Senate.
Yeah, if you have, and the whole country. And I think we need to do away with the presidency altogether. We don't need a president anymore. We need to just change this whole system. And so it has to happen one step at a time. So stay tuned for information on that. I want to thank you for coming on, David, Jack, Jester. I want to thank you folks for watching. We're going to go out on some more music from Lee Rice. Thank you for coming in too, Lee. Thank you folks for watching. And remember to restore hemp. Thank you folks out there. We'll be back next week with more Cannabis Common Sense.